Ein solches Leben ist Gift für die Gesundheit. Wer gesund bleiben will, muss auch gesund leben. Im rhythmischen Ablauf von Arbeit und vernünftiger Erholung wird die Gesundheit gehegt und geschont.
There was a positive side to eugenics, which Nazi propaganda was keen to stress. A healthy people would be the only ones fit to breed the master race. A national campaign was put into place to screen the population for disease.
Alle Volksgenossen sollen vor den Röntgenschirm kommen, damit jede Infektionsquelle rechtzeitig erkannt wird.
Money was poured into a nationwide health program. The aim was to breed a new generation of super-fit Germans.
Erste Forderung. Der Säugling ist von der Mutter so lange wie möglich zu stillen. Wichtig ist daher eine gesunde Lebensführung der Mutter.
There were large financial rewards for women who had lots of children, and there were fines for childless couples. The result was a baby boom during Hitler's first 5 years in power. The health ministry boasted that 1 million more children had been born because of the Nazi breeding policy.
It was Hitler's intention to breed a new, absolutely pure race of Nordic Germans, all as blue-eyed and blonde as possible. And I assume that many doctors were somehow inspired by this idea and went along with supporting it.
It's often claimed today that it was the National Socialists who forced or persuaded German doctors to take up genetic biology and racial hygiene. That is simply untrue. It was not the doctors who were persuaded by the National Socialists. It was the other way round.
Adolf Hitler read the most fashionable German eugenics textbook while he was writing his political manifesto, Mein Kampf.
The German state must see to it that only the healthy beget children. Here the state must act as the guardian of a millennial future. It must put the most modern medical means in the service of this insight. Those who are physically and mentally unhealthy and unworthy must not perpetuate their suffering in the body of their children.
Sie heiraten doch nicht nur, sagen wir, mit einem geliebten Menschen ständig beisammen zu sein. Schließlich wollen Sie doch auch Kinder haben. Also. Und Kinder setzt man nicht in die Welt, damit sie da sind, sondern es sollen gesunde, wertvolle Menschen werden. Und darum ist es wichtig, dass man seine Körperverfassung und seine Erbgesundheit prüfen lässt.
One of the images I always have in my mind when I think of Nazi Germany is of girls in swimsuits throwing beach balls around or jumping through hoops. This is not some great Nazi health club everybody has just joined. You're doing it to make sure that the women produce as many Hitler youths as possible, our fit reproductive machine.
We often neglect the elements of idealism. We don't like to hear about that. But the Nazis held out to German doctors the idea of being biological soldiers, cultivators of the genes, physicians to the folk, all these being very ideal, the idea of doing great work for the people in general that transcends the selfishness of a one-to-one doctor-patient relationship.
My father was a supporter of the Germanic race. Once, for example, when I was a little boy, he took the globe and said to me, "Look here, this is where law and order and modern civilization predominate." And he showed me the countries on the globe. From New Zealand, Australia, northern Italy, northern France, England, Scandinavia, Germany, and North America. And of course, as an impressionable young man, that made me feel that the Nordic race, the Germanic race, was the salt of the earth.
Aber wir verhindern ihre Vermehrung. Solche arme Wesen sollen in Zukunft nicht mehr neben unseren gesunden Kindern leben. Die Unfruchtbarmachung ist ein leichter chirurgischer Eingriff.
ist ein humanes Mittel, durch das die Nation vor grenzenlosem Elend bewahrt wird.
Mein Vater war ein idealistischer Utopist, wie die meisten dieser Leute, und man braucht solche Utopisten.
My father was a utopian idealist, like most people of that kind, and you do need utopians to get things done at all. At any rate, my father must have thought in the end, thank God, at least a few 100,000 idiots and people who would never have been able to find happiness in their lives because they are inadequate, will at least be prevented from reproducing themselves and bringing new inadequate children into this world.
But even by the 1930s, German geneticists were aware that many conditions lie dormant for generations. To eradicate them all would take centuries.
This was well known, and in fact even Hitler knew. If you read Mein Kampf, you find there a statement that this program will take at least 600 years to give a result. But I think again, this may sound terribly attractive. You are now involved in a project which is really a huge project, which goes down the next 1,000 years. Yeah, wonderful.
Was your father right that sterilisation would improve the human race? Was he correct that if it had gone on long enough?
That's very difficult to answer. I think at that time he was right in some way.
Karl Brandt, his favorite doctor, who became really the head of Nazi medicine, came upon the idea of inviting requests for mercy deaths.
Hitler entrusted Karl Brandt, his personal physician and close confidant. Dr. Erich Hessler was working as a pediatrician at the Leipzig clinic when the deformed baby was born.
It happened during a home birth. A child was born without limbs. The mother was so horrified when the midwife held the child up that she screamed, "The child has no arms and no legs." So the father took the child from the midwife, took it to the children's hospital and said, "We will not take the child back under any circumstances." So now it was in the hospital. And as soon as Brandt had seen the child, he left word for the chief surgeon that whatever measures he took, there would not be any court proceedings. So Hitler gave the permission to perform euthanasia, but it did not give a written order. Fundamentally, euthanasia is murder. But in grave times of need, exceptional individual cases can occur, and this I cannot condemn. Besides, it's like this. Total idiot children can't be educated. They don't develop. They don't know any words. They only scream. They have to be force-fed somehow, and they'll never be clean. They are often doubly incontinent. Sometimes they smear urine and feces around if they are not tied down. Anything you give to them as a toy, they'll tear apart. These children are idiots. That's the kind of children we are talking about.